we really have to wonder, what's going on with the Premier League and the entertainment that they are showing, the players are showing right now, because it's not, and it's far from where we want to go and what we want to see.
Shaka, was this just a case of both teams being happy with a draw? Does that kind of get into the psyche of the players' minds? That's psyche, by the way.
I'm sure it does. Later on in the game, I think it looked like both teams settled for a point. I thought the game started really well, and that was down to Liverpool. And then City kind of took control with their possession. But even so, I expected more from City, both in terms of their tempo and then in trying to get the other side of Liverpool, which I didn't think they were very, very good at, in all honesty. And then, oddly, how many times did Kevin De Bruyne kind of mispass the ball? And I'm not even talking about the penalty. I just expected more quality from Kevin De Bruyne in particular. So all those things added together, I won't go so far as to say it was terrible, but I expected the game to be better.
There wasn't even any controversy to talk of in this game, Stevie. Both managers coming out, and it was the 5 substitutions, which of course the Premier League is the only big league not to exercise that at the moment, which both managers brought up. Trent Alexander-Arnold, of course, injured. He'll be out reportedly for 4 weeks. There's quite the debate brewing in England at the moment. The big boys like Klopp and Guardiola saying, look, we need 5 substitutions, yet you've got other people like Dean Smith at Aston Villa saying, no, look, 3 substitutions is right, otherwise it gives those bigger boys an unfair advantage.
This really is a tricky one because, listen, 70% of the league's not in Europe, so for them, it's fine. The big boys are complaining because they are in Europe and they're going to need all their squad and they're going to need to rotate. So that's why they're not happy. So I kind of flip-flop. I do understand that if you've got tired players, then people like you, Dan, will look at that second half and see how rubbish it was. And that if you have 5 subs, then maybe we'd have been talking about a more entertaining game.
The only point
we're going to do...
Sorry, just on that point, Stevie, they only made 3 substitutes between them in the whole game. So if the players were that tired, why didn't they bring on fresh legs?
No, because as you said earlier, that they pretty much had settled for a stalemate. Nobody was willing to change anything. But they're just talking in general. I don't think they would just turn around and saying about this particular game. They're talking in general. And in general, yes, 5 subs suits the big teams. But it's not fair on the other teams. So at the end of the day, we can't go around looking after the teams that have got the most money, the better players, a bigger squad. Everything's bigger and better for these guys. You can't keep looking after them. So, listen, I've kind of flip-flopped the last 24 hours, and I'm with Dean Smith. You know what? It's unfortunate. I think 3 is the right number. And if you're in all these competitions, then use your squad.
Frank?
Yeah, I completely agree with Stevie and with Dean Smith. I think 3 substitutions will be enough. I see 5 substitutions in France. I don't see the game getting better or have more intensity because of 5 substitutions. It doesn't mean that players are going to be not going to be injured. We can see with Paris Saint-Germain with 12 or 11 or 12 injuries. So it doesn't mean anything. And all those clubs, all the big clubs, how we call them, they knew that they were going to be in Europe. And they know that for 10 or for the decade, for maybe 2 decades. And they know that they need to double every position because they know that they're going to be involved in domestic cups and European cups. So they all know that they have to have 2 teams. So they prepared for that. So they have no excuses now that because of the pandemic, some players are injured. He should be able to put other players. And as you just mentioned, Manchester City and Liverpool made only the 2 of them, only 3 changes in total. So the excuse is there, but it doesn't serve them because it's completely stupid to say that.
But just to bring up,
we can see that. Yeah, go on.
Just to bring up a point that you made at the start, Frank, you're saying, yeah, but we're seeing these big teams going head-to-head in the Premier League, and so far, it's not delivering the sort of matches that we were expecting. How far could you argue that because the players are tired and because there aren't 5 substitutes, it's affecting the whole brand overall?
Well, it's true that you can flip-flop, every 24 hours, say, yeah, maybe we need 5 substitutions. But again, when you take Paris Saint-Germain and they have 5 substitutions, they still have 11 or 12 players injured. So it doesn't mean anything. We can see that in Germany, it doesn't seem to be the same problem where players are not injured like that. So I don't know. I don't have all explanation of everything, but for me, it's clear that if you are in Europe and you know that you're going to be in Europe, you have to have two teams, and it's what Manchester City has, Liverpool has, Chelsea, and some others, Arsenal, but they still have injuries. So it's maybe something else. It's maybe the preparation. Of course, we are through a pandemic, and players who has gotten the virus have trouble to go back to fitness, and because they have to play very quickly. But we are going through a problem where big clubs should be less, impact by the problem. But they are, and maybe the show that they are showing to us is maybe more because you have no fans, you have less entertainment because of that, and because the players are not well prepared. That's why they get injured.
Limited pre-season as well, going into the start of the campaign. Shaka, 3 or 5?
Listen, it's not even 12 months ago. 3 substitutions was par for the course, and nobody had a complaint for it. And then there was 5 substitutions because of the pandemic, which nobody could have expected. And now it was up to the individual leagues to decide what they wanted to do. I don't get the argument this week of all weeks when between the two managers, as you mentioned, Dan, they only make 3 substitutions. For that to be the headline or the takeaway from this weekend's game. Now, admittedly, both managers used their full quota of 5 substitutions in midweek in the Champions League. And yes, the schedule is more hectic now than it normally is for November. But again, a game every week is what both these clubs are used to in March and in April. And if anybody knows how to cope with it, even with 3 substitutions in both domestic and European action, it should be these 2. So I don't get the argument. I don't get why that is the sticking point, or that is the focus this week of all weeks.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.